Hello everyone, welcome to my presentation on joint military exercises between the United States and other countries. Before we get into it, a little bit about myself. My name is Kyle Rupert. I'm a 25-year-old sophomore and a history major here at the Commonwealth University of Bloomsburg. I chose this topic for my presentation because I myself am a veteran. I served in the United States Marine Corps from August of 2018 through August of 2023. From the time I arrived at my unit in 2019 until right before COVID restrictions, we worked hand in hand with Japanese soldiers who came over to learn about how we perform maintenance on the V-22 Osprey. Working with service members from a different country was a very interesting and overall positive experience for me, and this presentation is a good chance for me to research other instances of cooperation between the United States military and militaries of other nations. So what are joint military exercises? For the purposes of this presentation, we will define it as two or more countries using their militaries to work together and achieve a common goal. We will also limit the scope of the presentation by only examining instances of military cooperation between the United States and other parties. We will cover two notable historical examples of military cooperation in battle, as well as more modern examples of joint military exercises. Our historical examples will both come from the Revolutionary War, involving us working with France against Britain. The first battle we're going to look at is the Battle of Rhode Island in 1778. This is the first attempt at cooperation between the United States and French forces after France came into the Revolutionary War as a U.S. ally. American forces had British forces besieged at Newport, Rhode Island, since Britain began occupying it in 1776. French forces sailed to the U.S. to try and assist Americans in recapturing the area. When a storm caused significant damage to both French and British naval vessels, the commanding officer of the French was pressured into sailing to Boston for repairs instead of assisting American troops with the siege. Americans expressed their frustrations with the French seemingly retreating and attempted to sway them to stay. Despite their efforts, French troops ultimately did leave for repairs. American forces made the decision to withdraw from the siege, fighting off British troops as they pulled back. The end results of the battle are largely inconclusive, but thankfully the flared tempers and disagreements between the U.S. and France were later smoothed over by politicians. The second example we're going to look at is the Siege of Yorktown in 1781. This was a second and much more successful instance of American and French cooperation. This would also be the final major land battle of the Revolutionary War. To set the scene, American forces are considering attempting to retake New York, while French commanders argue for a push instead into Virginia, believing it would be easier to take from British defenses. With further French reinforcements sailing for the Chesapeake, the Americans and French, already in the United States, decided to push into Virginia and use deceptive tactics to convince British forces that they would be attacking New York. These tactics, as well as some confusing orders from British higher-ups, led to the complete surrounding and bombardment of British troops in Yorktown on October 14, 1781, and an official surrender taking place on October 19th. We're going to go ahead and move into some modern examples now. These will both cover two different time periods, both in Iraq. The 2003 invasion of Iraq will be the first example we look at. The invasion began on March 20th, 2003, and was part of the overall larger war on terror. A coalition of forces consisting of the United States, the United Kingdom, Australia, and Poland invaded the Republic of Iraq. 26 days later, they would capture the capital of Baghdad. On the right side of the slide, you can see the breakdown of the coalition forces that were part of the initial invasion of the the initial invasion period of Iraq. And if you look, you can see that Americans sent 130,000 troops, Britain sending 45,000, Australia sending 2,000, and Poland sending 200 Polish commandos. Our second example will examine a different period of conflict from 2013 to 2017, also taking place in Iraq. This time period has many examples of coordinated military efforts between nations. I went ahead and limited it down to three. On August 7th, 2014, President Obama authorized airstrikes against ISIL forces as well as aid drops to Iraqi refugees, while the United Kingdom offered assistance with surveillance, refueling, and promised further aid to refugees. 6 days later, the U.S. would then assist Kurdish forces in breaking a siege at Mount Sinjar. Airstrikes were used continuously against ISIL all throughout the 2013 and 2017 period, including a time period of October 2016 where multiple airstrikes from both U.S. and Iraqi air forces took down more ISIL targets. In conclusion, the examples I provided today barely scratch the surface of times that United States worked hand in hand with other militaries, with other notable examples such as working with the Allies in World War II, France in Vietnam, or NATO forces in the Middle East. I hope you learned something new today about joint military operations, and have therefore learned another small portion of what makes up international relations as a whole. Thank you for your time.